What's going on, you guys? I'm going to talk a little bit about cloning today, and I'm going to try to make a series of tutorials that I'll put somewhere that you can all have access to when you're at home, maybe in Google Drive or in the classroom, so that you can see what they are and if you ever need to access them for your own personal projects or for a classroom project that I may assign for you guys. I just want to go over a quick concept today called about cloning. Here's our cat sprite, sprite 2, and cloning is basically just making a copy of the cat. So here's my cat. If I move him, you'll see there's just one of them. And if I hit Control and I just pull out create clone of myself, if I just click it, it'll just run that one block, and watch what will happen. Okay, it'll flash, and then I can pull over. Now I have two cats. All right, we have one cat and we have a clone of the cat. So what we need to understand about clones is that they will follow their own sets of commands, especially when we give them what's called a clone ID, which we'll talk about later on. So let's pull out my when green flag clicked, and you'll see this year when I'm doing our programming lessons, we're going to try to only use one green flag clicked in the whole project. And today's project is only going to have one green flag clicked. But just for example's sake, I'm just going to throw it out there just to make it easy. So when the green flag is clicked, here's what we'll do. I'm going to have this cat, okay, remember his XY coordinates are over here on the right. He'll start there. He'll go to minus 87, 1, which doesn't really matter as long as he's over here somewhere. And I'll have him say hello for 2 seconds. Let's make him say clone me. After he clones me, and he's done saying for 2 seconds, let's have him create a clone. Now, when the clone is created, what do we want that clone to do? Well, let's tell him. When I start his clone, why don't we just have him go to the opposite side of the screen? So instead of minus 87, Y1, we'll send him to 87, 1. It'll just be over here somewhere. So we'll go 2, 87, 1, and he'll say, I've been cloned. So watch what happens here. When I run this program, this cat will, let's have him snap to the left side. He'll snap to the left side, to that coordinate, because XY coordinates are important, and I'm not convinced we fully understand how they work just yet, so we have to do some work on that. He's going to say clone me for 2 full seconds. Once he's finished saying clone me, he's going to create a clone. And when the clone begins, it will go to 87, 1, which will just be the right side of the screen, and he'll say, I've been cloned. Let's see what happens. Clone me, 1, 2, I've been cloned. So you notice that when the clone came up, right now, the original sprite's speaking, and now the clone is speaking. So the original sprite did not follow this set of scripts, and the clone did not follow this set of scripts. So it's important to understand that they do act separately. Okay, so that's a quick example on what cloning is. Now, let's just say I wanted to have 4 clones. Well, we could say, let's repeat 4 times. Okay, so we'll have 5 sprites in all. We'll have the original sprite. Just want to reset this for a second. We'll have the original sprite plus 4 clones. Now, when the clones come out, they're going to have to know where to go. So what we need to do is create something called a clone ID. So I created a variable. I went to data, and I make a variable. Very important that a clone ID is for this sprite only, also known as a local variable. If you don't make the clone ID a local variable, then this won't work, because the local variables, as they go for each clone, will become their own individual variable. But if you make it for all sprites global, it goes for everybody, and the clones don't just grab that little section of it. So let's go to clone ID, and for this sprite only. So when we start this project, let's set the clone ID to 0, and each clone is going to have a number. So before we make each clone, we should count by 1. So if it starts at 0, it's going to repeat, change by 1. So 1, create a clone. 2, create a clone. 3, create a clone. 4, create a clone. So let's tell what's going to happen down here now. Because now we're going to have 4 different clones. So we'll have to say if clone ID equals 1. So I go to my operators, I grab a Boolean, and data. If clone ID equals 1, let's have him go to the top of the screen here. He'll go to, let's say, x0 and y, I don't know, 100. So that'll be up here somewhere. We can duplicate that and say if clone ID equals 2. Let's have it go to the opposite, minus 100. So 0 is the middle of the screen for x, left and right. Y 100 would be up here somewhere. Y minus 100 will be down here somewhere. And we have a third clone. Clone ID equals 3. Let's have this y go to 0, so he centers again. But let's have him go to the left side of the screen. Let's go minus 150. And if clone ID equals 4, let's have him go to 150. So what should happen here is this. When we run the program, the clone ID will set to 0, also known as initializing. And we're going to go and learn different ways to initialize this year, better, more efficient ways to make sure that all the things that need to be initialized are initialized before anything else in the project runs. Okay, we're going to set, let's hide the original sprite. Okay, we're going to hide the original sprite. We don't need him, because all we're going to do is make the clones appear. Okay, so we'll just have 4 clones on the screen when this is done. The original sprite can just hide. We don't even need them. Okay, so what will happen is the clone ID will reset to 0. All right, he's going to hide, so we won't even see him. Let's have him take away. Let's have him show. That way he can say clone me. Then he'll hide. Then it will create the 4 clones. It will go clone 1, create a clone, clone ID 2, create a clone, clone ID 3, create, clone ID 4, create, and then what each clone will do after it's created. Let's give it a go. Clone me, and we should have 4 clones. Beautiful. So that worked out pretty good. So let's do that again. Clone me, he hides, and up come our 4 clones. All right, and each one of these clones should know who they are. And we can test that by saying when this sprite is clicked, let's have it say their clone ID. So he's 4, he's 2, he's 1, and he's 3. So now you notice that each clone has their own ID, so that we can tell them to do separate things within the project without having 1, 2, 3, 4 separate sprites that we have to handle. We can work all of this right through the clones. Okay, so there it is one more time. He hides. There's our 4 clones. Now if you notice the 4 clones, watch them, they kind of pop up in a little different order. They go 1, 2, 3, 4. It goes fast, but they're not all appearing at the exact same time. So if we wanted to fix that, what we could do is make what's called a custom block. And this custom block will be clone me again. We'll just call it clone me. But under options, we want to run it without the screen refresh. So there's 30 frames per second in Scratch. So if we run this block without a screen refresh, what will happen is it will run during one of the frames within the 30. It'll just take 1 frame to run this whole code, as opposed to this thing probably took, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7, 10 frames. We could measure that if we wanted to set the timer and divide it. We could measure the frames and see what it is, but we'll do it another time. So we'll press OK. And here's what we'll do. We're just going to take this block and put it here. And then when they start his clone, they'll follow this. But instead of it going 1, 2, 3, 4, it's just going to do all this at once. So you ready? And they should all appear at the exact same time. And they're still kind of... Sorry. Is that alright?